but there were leaks from the government that there was a depletion of our weaponry to fight Iran with. And then if you have anything, Ir Trump is talking about there's a new deal with Iran in the works. I know your audience is thinking, "Yeah, that's not gonna pan out," but if you have anything on that. And then also tales of JD and Bibi Netanyahu not getting along.
Well, to go first very quickly, people have been leaking that there are not enough Patriot missiles, for example, or Harpoon missiles, older ones, Tomahawk missiles, are not enough sensitive, the most sophisticated. Yeah, we've heard there are not enough bunker busters. I don't know if any of this is true, but it's been leaking. And the problem why Trump is so angry is we have about 40 or 50% likely of our arsenal, which is too low. This has been going on for a long time. Obama cut the defense budget, Biden did, and we don't have enough stuff. But the problem that makes people angry we have enough to handle Iran. We don't have enough to handle Iran, give the Ukraine enough to protect Kiev, and then deter China from attacking Taiwan. So the more you say that and leak it, the more likely China might believe it and want to try. While we're engaged with Ukraine and Iran, they might want to try to see if they could go into Taiwan and we wouldn't have enough missiles. That's the worry. The second thing about Trump and the Iran war, we've had 5 or 6 of these where he says the negotiations are going great, and then they break down, and then he hits them once or twice, and then they beg him to get back, and then everything's close to an agreement, but the Iranians don't tell the truth, and then he gets frustrated. And the problem with this is that on February 28th, we had 250 days before the midterms. So after 38 days of kinetic operations, we stopped. We stopped because about 90% of everything they had was destroyed. But we didn't know that they had these little mosquito boats hidden everywhere, and we didn't know to what degree they had drones and missiles hidden, and they had a lot. So when we kept saying we're destroying 90% of their air capacity as far as missiles and drones, we didn't know what the denominator was. We didn't know 90% of what? 10,000, 20,000? It could be a lot, 10%. And so they started threatening the Gulf. At that point, the Gulf freaked out, and they had wanted us to go in there and eliminate Iran. But now that they got hit, they didn't want to commit with their 600 aircraft and join us because they thought we wouldn't take them out completely. So then people came to Trump, I guess, this week and said, "You're out of time. We're only 90 days. If you got to solve this, and you can't keep saying this because." So last week they dreamed up, we're just going to unload greatest military campaign in the air since World War II. We're going to bomb the duels, and they were. And then that panicked Iran, and they say now they're going to open the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think you can trust them, but the point is they got the message that now this was the last chance. So if they break this, and I think they will, Trump will have no choice to have any credibility unless he continues with that program. And your third part of the question?
JD was at odds with Bibi. That was the tale. He was on Laura and he denied it. But
Well, that's a complicated question because Trump came out today and said that he supports JD as his successor as a Republican nominee in 2028. The reason he did that was JD was starting to be associated with these negotiations and not the kinetic part under Hegseth. And the negotiations hadn't worked. And he had said we were dealing with the moderates. There are no moderates in Iran. There's people who pose as moderates, but even if they wanted to be moderate, they'd be murdered. It's run by Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Everybody knows that, and the theocracy. And then he said that Israel couldn't kill its way out. That sounds like Israel wanted to kill people. They didn't want to kill people. If Hezbollah had stopped the missiles tomorrow, they wouldn't have ever gone into Lebanon. So there was an impression that on the international stage, he wasn't as experienced, let's say, as Rubio, and Rubio's stock was starting to come up. And if that continued, there might be a destructive race in 2028. So what Trump did was he said to JD, pretty much, I will back you, but you've got to stop the stuff about Netanyahu. So he had him meet Netanyahu, and there was supposedly an anime on Laura Ingram's interview. He denied there was a bad, but the problem is this: that Tucker's son worked for JD, and he, whether it's fair or not, is associated with that wing of the MAGA movement. The Tucker Carlson, the Candace Owens, the Steve Bannons, the Joe Kidd, is that his name? Yeah. All of those guys. And maybe Megyn Kelly, I don't know. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey. And the problem with that, if he is to be associated with them, they say some pretty crazy things about Israel and the Jews. And, when Thomas Massey had lost because of the decision was made in Israel. And so there's a lot of, there's two problems with that. Trump's grandchildren are Jewish, and his daughter has converted to Judaism. And more importantly, there's a lot of powerful Jews and donors who are sick of the Democratic anti-Semitism. So the Republican Party is trying to attract them. But already you see, not just among Jews, but among other people, are worried that JD seems to be singling out Israel for criticism that's not applicable to other more deserving targets. Anyway, so this week he's been rehabilitated, sort of. He got in with, he had a talk with Netanyahu. He got on Fox and said it went well. Trump endorsed him, and you didn't hear him taking, he's more now looking at corruption than trying to solve the negotiations. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Well, let's turn to some of the things going on at the federal level of our government. Rand Paul has gotten the votes to refer Fauci for contempt, given that he took the fifth 111 times. And my question is not so much on that as this precedent set. And I don't know if it's worse now than it has been in the past, of having a government official execute the laws terribly against the people or to the people, and then just being able to get away with it because at the end of a president's term, they pardon them. And that's a very bothersome pattern or precedent. And I'm not sure which one.
Well, there's two things that presidents do. They give pardons, so they're exempt from prosecution, and they give clemencies, so that if they've been sentenced, their sentence can be stopped. They can get out of prison, for example. And they do both. And it's controversial who does more of one or the other. But if you put them both together, which you should, out of the last of our 47 presidents, the top 10 were Democrats. And the most was Joe Biden at about 4,500 total. That's pardons and clemencies and other things related to that, And then there's FDR. Then there's Woodrow Wilson. I think Trump now is 3 or 4 in 6 years. But Eisenhower gave a lot too, by the way. But out of that 10, I think 8 are Democrats. And that's important to remember because they keep saying that Trump is the all-time pardoner. And I think that's been widely abused.